In the last segment, I discussed the concept of Quetzalcoatl and how each one of these panels tells a story about omens that we're seeing and how they affected the kingdom's production system. I've been going around in a clockwise direction, so I'm going to continue with that and go next to the panel in the lower right-hand corner. This panel looks a little bit different. In the lower left-hand corner, where the omens are a couple of these glyphs again that I'm not sure about. They have two tails, and I'm pretty sure now that they must be comet glyphs because comets have two tails also. The coatl on this panel appears to be really healthy and has water wells or reservoirs along its spine that are red and white, indicating that they have water. And the main glyph for this panel is the Flint Glyph, which again is a glyph for water. So this panel appears to show a lot of water. But as you can see, the tree trunks holding up the kingdom are kind of crumbling and weakened. And if you look at the figure at the bottom, I believe is a slave, it's almost obliterated. And I think this might mean that a lot of slaves were wiped out by waterborne diseases, which the Aztecs were well aware of. Again, the story seems to be that there were a couple of comets observed and there was a lot of water. And sometimes a lot of water is not a good thing, as in this case. Next, I want to continue around to the lower left-hand panel. There's a lot going on in this one. In the lower right-hand corner where the omens are two glyphs of Ehecatl, the wind god. So that's a lot of wind. They look kind of strange, like they may be formed from coatls, and there might be some wells, icons along with them. Then there's again these two other objects with tails that probably represent omens, comets or something. In front of one of them there appears to be this little gray and white animal, possibly a monkey. The coatl in this panel looks really healthy, has several wells down its spine with water in them, and as you can see, he's chasing away a rodent. He has this angry look on his face. And if we look at the tree trunks he's holding on to, which I believe are the foundation of the kingdom, you see that the glyph on these is actually also a coatl. And these coatls are broken, and the breaks were caused by rodents. And again, the figure at the bottom appears to be holding something in its left hand. That appears to be possibly an inkwell and a pen type of device, something to write with, but it could be something else. And to the other side of this figure, there was something else going on here. I tried to adjust the colors and sharpen it to see what it is, but it's kind of a mess there. But there was definitely something going on. And they could be more rodents. Looking at the whole panel again, it appears to be saying that it was windy. There were some other omens. Coatl was healthy, their irrigation systems were healthy with lots of water, but that they had rodent problems. But they managed to chase the rodents away and overcome that. And finally, I'm going to look at the middle and best preserved panel of the five. This one has a date that I could actually find, May 21, 1051. But every 52 years, these dates repeat. So it could be 52-year increments either direction. It could be this in 1103. Could be April 25th and 1155. I actually think it's the 1103 date, and I'll get into that later. The omens in this panel are different. For one thing, they're at the top, and they consist of eclipses and water glyphs. The coatl in this panel appears to be healthy, even looks to have a second coatl forming. There appear to be healthy wells along the spine. The main glyph for this panel is the Olin Glyph. It represents movement. but I also think it represents the measurement of movement. Because when you look at some of the various glyphs that represent Olin, like these, the two on the left, appear to be measuring devices that you would take horizontal angles with. And then I wanted to show you on the right again, even in the Olin Glyph, the interplay between omens and the crops. At the bottom, we again have one of these figures that I think are slaves. This one appears to be lightly tanned, but has mud on the arms. You can see there the male genitalia pretty clearly, and the nose plate. And then two vases that appear to be full of products. I also wanted to point out that there's a wall depicted here behind everything, so they appear to be down in a hole, and that there are these features that the poles are coming out of. And I was going to show you here that even within these panels, you have the concept of Quetzalcoatl. In the right hand, you have the measuring device. In the left hand, you have Coatl. At first, I thought this panel was just saying that there were lots of eclipses during this time of period and also a lot of rain. But now I think this is the culmination of the Chacoan project. I think this is showing that they were predicting eclipses pretty regularly. And as a result, they had a lot of rain, and their coatl, their irrigation system, was healthy. And then the vessels at the bottom show the offerings they were making at the proper time so that the gods would be pleased. So the foundation of the kingdom is the strongest in this. And I believe they were now ready to go south and create an empire in the Valley of Mexico. And being able to predict eclipses like they could be used as black magic against other people. They could go to other people and say, do what we want or we're going to obliterate the sun at this time. And the Aztecs were known to have used black magic on their trip south. There are several four-panel Aztec drawings like these, and both seem to be portraying historical events. Usually the Aztecs going north and then coming back south, and they'll tell it all in four panels. So that makes me think that this, with dates, again, is like that this is a historical document showing these time periods. Now, I went clockwise around this, but I think it might actually go counterclockwise and end in the middle. But I can't be sure of that without knowing what the dates were. Now, to the Aztecs, time is different than to Westerners today. A decade to them was like 52 years. A century was like 400 years. So they were thinking in longer terms than we were. So I'm just going to speculate that maybe these represent 52-year periods. And if I'm correct about the date in the middle being 1103, then it's possible that this could kind of be the range of dates that these panels represent. Now, the reason I think the center panel is probably dated to 1103 instead of one of those other 52-year periods, increments from this date, is because if this is the culmination of the Chacoan project, the Aztecs themselves say that it took 200 years to get to the Valley of Mexico to establish their capital at Tenochtitlan. Now, when they say 200 years, I believe them. They established Tenochtitlan in 1325, so I'm believing that they were starting their campaign south from, I believe, northern Mexico in about 1125. So this would fit with that. Now, for those dedicated souls that have made it this far, I have a couple little treats I want to show you. Now, back in the episode before, I showed this panel in the upper right-hand corner that shows what I think is a nova and a comet. Now, this panel also has the monkey glyph, and it shows a figure that's been whipped, flagellated. Now here's a pictograph from the Southwest that shows almost the same thing. A guy holding on to two poles. He's got a monkey glyph holding on to one of them. He's got a Quetzalcoatl on his head, except instead of a plume or a feather or the comet tail, there's a round thing there that I think is, again, the supernova. Now, if you look in close, the red striping, again, indicates flagellation. It looks like the monkey may have been flayed, and this figure in the middle just looks like a flayed and a eviscerated figure. So that looks like it's telling the exact same story as that panel, which made me go back and look again and say, well, is this snake flayed? Are these monkeys, do they have flagellation marks? But the glyphs are so small you can't see that. But anyway, it made me think and go back and look again at this. Now I also want to show you what I'm working on with the Quetzal device that I've been calling the Mesoamerican Sextant, kind of trying to figure it out and draw it out a little better. And I'm almost to the point where I could build one of these things. In conclusion, I just wanted to point out again that you can't read a lot of complex mythological symbolism into these picture writings. They appear to be historic documents. Most of them have dates and counts. And Aztec religion was pretty simple. It was Quetzalcoatl. It was, we're going to build an empire by using the black magic we learned through astronomy, and we're going to use our irrigation systems to produce surplus. And that's how we're going to build an army and go down and take the Valley of Mexico.